Welcome back, everyone, to Echoes of Ihsan. In this deep dive, we're going to be exploring Sahih al-Bukhari,
Okay.
specifically Book 64, which focuses on supporting the family.
Sounds good.
Our listeners are really interested in learning about this topic, and
Mm.
honestly, it's a really fascinating area.
Yeah, it is.
It goes way beyond just, sort of the basic necessities of providing for your family. We'll be talking about how, this idea of supporting your family is deeply spiritual,
Yeah.
and it's connected to so many other things.
I think it's amazing how these hadiths show us how multifaceted this idea of family support in Islam really is.
Yeah.
It's not just about fulfilling your duty to your family, but it's about embodying a whole set of values.
Mm.
And that's what makes it a form of worship. It's a way to seek Allah's blessings.
I love that.
And you can actually get closer to Allah through supporting your family.
It's like a path through
Exactly.
your actions towards Allah.
Beautiful way to put it.
It really makes you think about how even the smallest things we do for our families can have such a huge spiritual impact.
Absolutely.
It reminds me of Hadith 263,
Okay.
where the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says that spending on your family with the intention of seeking Allah's reward
Yeah.
is considered sadaqah.
Right.
Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar with the term sadaqah,
Sure.
in Islam, sadaqah is basically like an act of voluntary charity
Mm.
that you do just for the sake of Allah.
Exactly. And that's the key here.
Yeah.
This hadith really highlights how important intention is in Islam.
Yes.
It's not just about the action you're doing, but it's about why you're doing it.
Right.
Your intention transforms an ordinary action into something that has spiritual value.
So powerful.
So even something as simple as buying groceries for your family or paying their school fees
Yeah.
or, cooking a meal if you're doing it with the intention of pleasing Allah and seeking his reward,
Yes.
it becomes sadaqah.
Wow.
It becomes an act of worship.
It's like bringing that spirituality into literally everything you do.
It really is. It's about connecting your everyday life with your faith.
And it's not about separating the sacred from the secular, right?
Right.
It's about bringing them together.
Exactly. It's about infusing your entire life with that sense of purpose and connection to the divine.
Like turning every act of support into a prayer.
Absolutely. A silent conversation with Allah.
And what I find really interesting is that this idea of giving within your family, it doesn't stop at spiritual rewards.
Right.
There's also like a real promise attached to it.
Yeah.
Hadith 264 was a powerful one for me.
Okay.
Allah says, quote, "Spend and I shall spend on you."
Powerful words.
Like he's promising abundance to those who spend on their families.
And that's where things get really fascinating. Because this hadith isn't just talking about material wealth. I mean, that's definitely part of it.
Right.
But it's talking about a much bigger, a much wider concept of abundance.
What do you mean?
When Allah says, I shall spend on you, he's talking about all sorts of blessings.
Wow.
He could be talking about ease in your daily life support when you're facing difficulties, guidance when you feel lost strength when you're weak.
Wow.
It's about aligning yourself with this divine flow of giving and receiving.
Like a give and take.
Exactly. And the idea is that when you give generously, you're never really losing anything.
Because you're being replenished.
Exactly. Allah will replenish you in ways you might not even be able to imagine.
And that brings us to the concept of tawakkul, doesn't it?
Yes.
That trust in Allah's plan,
Beautifully put.
even when things feel uncertain.
Tawakkul is this deep faith and reliance on Allah, knowing that He is the one who provides and sustains us.
Yeah.
And this hadith, with its promise of abundance, it's reminding us to develop that tawakkul,
Right.
to let go of that fear and scarcity mindset.
To live with abundance.
Exactly. It encourages us to be generous without constantly worrying about what it's costing us.
Because Allah will provide.
He will provide.
Right.
We just need to trust that
Such a powerful message, especially in today's world,
it is.
where everyone's so worried about money.
It's a reminder that even when things are uncertain, there's a higher power looking out for us,
Guiding us.
guiding us, supporting us, ensuring our well-being.
And what really blew my mind
It's that.
is how this idea of support goes beyond our immediate families.
Oh, right.
Hadith 265 makes this amazing comparison
Okay.
between taking care of the vulnerable people in society and jihad.
Interesting.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that caring for widows and the poor is like a warrior fighting for Allah's cause.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It elevates supporting those in need to this spiritual level.
Right. It challenges our understanding of what a hero really is.
Yeah.
We tend to think of heroes as people who do these grand things.
Right.
Fight battles, win victories on a battlefield.
Yeah.
But this hadith changes that.
How so?
It tells us that real heroism is actually in those small acts of compassion, in helping those who are struggling, in wiping away tears, in providing for those who are lacking.
It's about seeing the humanity in everyone.
Exactly. Recognizing the inherent dignity of every human being, regardless of their situation.
Right.
And responding with generosity and empathy.
Like saying that real strength isn't physical, it's about having a compassionate heart.
Exactly. It's about being willing to step outside of yourself and truly see the needs of others.
And recognizing that we're all connected.
We are.
We're all part of this larger human family.
We are, and our well-being is tied to the well-being of everyone around us.
Exactly. It's all interconnected.
It is, and it's important to understand that the concept of jihad in Islam is often misunderstood.
You're right.
It's not just about physical fighting.
There's so much more to it.
There is. It's a much broader idea of striving and struggle.
Like a personal struggle.
Yes. The greatest jihad, as the Prophet Muhammad taught us, is the struggle against our own lower selves.
Interesting.
Against our ego, our greed, our selfishness. And in this hadith, he's putting the act of supporting the vulnerable on that same level as jihad.
Wow.
It's a spiritual jihad.
It's about fighting those limitations within ourselves.
Yes. To become more compassionate and generous.
So the real victory is not conquering others.
Right.
It's conquering that darkness within us.
Exactly. The darkness that stops us from seeing our shared humanity.
But Islam also teaches about taking care of our own right.
It does.
There's this really interesting story in Hadith 266.
Okay.
A man named Sad goes to the Prophet and asks if he can give away all of his property to charity.
Right.
And the Prophet actually advises him against it.
He does. And that's where we see this beautiful balance in Islam.
What do you mean?
Islam encourages generosity, but it also emphasizes taking care of your family.
I see.
The Prophet tells Sad that it's better to leave his heirs wealthy rather than poor.
So he's talking about inheritance.
He is. He's stressing how important it is to provide for your family, not just while you're alive.
But even after you're gone.
Exactly. It's about creating a legacy of stability and security for future generations.
It's like your responsibility doesn't end when you die.
Right. You want to set your family up for success.
Yeah.
Give them the means to live a good and fulfilling life.
And the Prophet goes even further to emphasize this in the same hadith.
He does.
He tells Adavik that everything he spends on his family, even something as small as a mouthful of food for his wife, counts as sadaqah.
That's right.
It's like he's saying, don't underestimate the importance of taking care of your own family.
Every act of love and support within the family matters.
It's spiritually significant.
It is. It's a beautiful and reassuring message.
It really is.
It reminds us that our efforts within the family are seen and acknowledged by Allah.
Every little act of kindness.
Yes, every sacrifice, every moment of love and support we give to our loved ones, it's valued by Allah.
It's like he's whispering to us, keep going. Your efforts are important.
Yeah.
You're building something beautiful and meaningful.
Exactly. You are being rewarded for it.
And it stresses how important it is to be intentional, even in the mundane parts of family life.
Absolutely.
To see our responsibilities as opportunities to get closer to Allah.
Yes, to cultivate compassion and to create a ripple effect of blessings that go beyond our immediate circle.
It's like our homes are becoming these little sanctuaries of worship.
Beautiful way to put it.
Where every act of kindness, every meal we share, every moment of laughter and connection becomes a way to express our devotion to Allah.
I love that.
And Hadiths 268 and 269 go even further.
Okay.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, outlines this hierarchy of responsibility. He says the best charity is given when you're wealthy. And you should start by supporting those who depend on you directly.
It's like a blueprint for giving ethically.
Okay.
Making sure you fulfill your primary obligations before you start being generous to others.
It's like building a solid foundation for generosity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Making sure the needs of those closest to you are met before you branch out.
It's about sustainability.
Yes. Creating a sustainable model of giving one that's grounded in responsibility.
And mindful of those who depend on you.
Exactly.
But what I find truly inspiring
Yes.
is that the Prophet Muhammad didn't just talk about this.
He lived it.
He lived it. Hadith 270 gives this amazing picture
Okay.
of how he managed the date harvest from the Bani an-Nadir garden.
Right.
He made sure to store enough dates to feed his family for an entire year before giving any away as charity.
It's a powerful example of practicing what you preach,
of putting those principles into action.
even at the highest level of leadership.
And it shows us that financial planning and being prepared for the future,
Hmm.
they're not just practical things, they're spiritual virtues.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, could have easily given away all those dates immediately,
Yeah.
but he knew how important it was to take care of his family first.
It's a reminder that we need to be responsible
Yes.
with our resources
Both material and spiritual.
to live a balanced and fulfilling life.
It's a masterclass in balancing worldly responsibilities with spiritual aspirations, showing us that true success comes from integrating those two realms.
It's about recognizing that our financial decisions have spiritual consequences,
Absolutely.
and that by aligning our actions with Islamic principles,
Yes.
we can create a legacy of blessings for ourselves and for future generations.
A beautiful legacy.
A legacy of good
Exactly.
and generosity.
And that's what it's all about.
You know, I think that's a great place to pause,
Okay.
and we'll pick up this conversation next time.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
You know, as we're talking about financial planning and legacy, this concept of inheritance is so important in Islam.
Yes.
It's a key part of supporting your family. And it's fascinating to see how these hadiths go into specific situations and rulings.
Yeah.
They give us guidance on how wealth should be managed and distributed.
Right.
For example, Hadith 271 deals with a pretty complex situation involving the Prophet's own inheritance.
Oh, yeah, this one is interesting. It's like a historical legal drama.
It really is.
It involves Ali bin Abi Talib, the Prophet's cousin and son-in-law,
Yes.
and Abbas, the Prophet's uncle.
Right.
They both go to Umar ibn al-Khattab, who was the caliph at the time,
Mm-hmm.
to claim their share of the Prophet's inheritance.
It's a delicate situation given their close relationship to the Prophet.
Very delicate.
And what's amazing is how Umar, known for his wisdom and justice,
Yeah.
resolves this dispute.
So how did he do that?
He reminds everyone, including Ali and Abbas,
Okay.
that the Prophet himself had stated that prophets don't leave behind inheritable wealth.
So what happens to it?
Whatever they leave behind is supposed to be given to charity.
It's a powerful reminder that the Prophet's mission wasn't about worldly possessions.
Exactly.
It was about guiding people towards Allah.
Towards a higher purpose.
It's like his legacy is measured in the impact he had on people's hearts and minds,
Beautifully put.
not in material wealth.
And Umar goes on to explain how the Prophet managed the property he received during his lifetime.
Okay.
He would meticulously take care of his family's needs for the year.
Making sure they were provided for them.
Exactly. And then he would distribute the rest as charity.
Extending his support to the wider community.
Exactly. It's a model of ethical leadership and financial responsibility.
Showing that even those in positions of authority are accountable for how they manage resources.
Yes, and that they should prioritize the needs of those who depend on them.
Right. And then extend their generosity to those less fortunate.
Umar makes it very clear that this practice of taking care of family first and then sharing the surplus continued under Abu Bakr, the first caliph, and then under his own leadership.
So it wasn't about personal ownership.
No, it was about stewardship, making sure the funds were used to benefit the whole community.
Such a powerful lesson in detachment from worldly possessions.
It is. It tells us that true wealth isn't about hoarding riches.
But about using them for good.
Exactly. Creating a legacy of compassion and social responsibility that lasts beyond your lifetime.
These hadiths about inheritance really highlight the balance we need in our financial decisions.
I do.
It's about supporting our families,
Yes.
but also giving back to the community.
And making sure our resources are used to help those in need and create a better world.
Recognizing that wealth is a trust from Allah.
A way to fulfill our responsibilities to our families and communities.
A tool to build a more just and equitable society.
Where everyone can thrive.
It's fascinating how these hadiths go beyond the general principles
Yes.
and address specific situations within the family structure.
Like what?
Well, for example, hadiths 272 and 277,
Okay.
they shed light on financial dynamics within a marriage,
Right.
particularly when a husband might be neglecting his responsibilities.
These hadiths offer really valuable insights
Yeah.
into the rights of women in a marriage, especially when it comes to financial support.
So in these cases, we see wives going to the Prophet Muhammad,
Yes.
peace be upon him.
Seeking guidance.
Yeah, they're asking if they can take from their husband's property without his knowledge
Right.
to meet their needs and their children's needs.
A delicate situation for sure.
It is. But what's interesting to me is that the Prophet doesn't condemn the wives for even considering this.
You're right.
He acknowledges their right to be provided for, to have their basic needs met.
And he advises them to take what they reasonably need.
To fulfill those needs, it shows that marriage in Islam is not just a contract.
It's a partnership.
Built on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared responsibility to meet each other's needs.
Absolutely. And that includes financial needs as well.
Ensuring that both spouses have the means to live a decent life.
A fulfilling life.
And then there's Hadith 273.
Okay.
Which brings up another interesting point.
What's that?
It says that if a wife gives charity from her husband's property without his permission, he still gets half the reward for that act of charity.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It acknowledges the connection between spouses in Islam.
Their actions and intentions impact each other.
Even when it comes to charity.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a reminder that they are a team.
Working together.
Their lives are intertwined even on a spiritual level.
It encourages wives to be active in giving charity.
Yes.
Even if they might not control the family finances.
It's a beautiful example of how Islam promotes partnership in marriage.
A partnership based on shared values.
And a desire to help others.
It's like saying generosity and compassion aren't limited by your financial status or social role.
They flow through the family.
Inspiring both husband and wife to embrace these virtues.
And create a legacy of giving together.
As we're going through these hadiths,
yes,
it's amazing how we get these glimpses into the Prophet's personal life.
I know.
His interactions with his family. You see their humanity.
Their struggles.
How they dealt with everyday challenges.
One story that really stands out is the story of Fatima.
The Prophet's daughter.
Yes, narrated in Hadiths 274 and 275.
It's a reminder that even the Prophet's family faced difficulties.
They did.
It makes them relatable.
Humanizes them.
Shows us that faith doesn't protect you from life's trials.
But it gives you strength and guidance to go through them.
So what happened with Fatima?
Well, Fatima, despite being the Prophet's daughter, was struggling.
With what?
She was having a hard time grinding grain.
That's a tough chore.
It is. It's physically demanding, and it was taking a toll on her.
So she asked her father for help.
She did.
And what did he say?
Instead of immediately giving her a servant to make things easier, he offered her something much more valuable.
What was that?
A spiritual practice.
Oh, wow.
A form of dhikr.
Remembrance of Allah.
Exactly.
That would bring her comfort and peace.
He told her to recite certain phrases glorifying Allah 33 times each, and Allahu Akbar 34 times before sleeping.
He said this practice would bring her more comfort and reward than a servant ever could.
That it would connect her to a source of strength and peace beyond the material world.
It's like saying sometimes what we really need isn't material things.
Right.
It's spiritual nourishment.
True contentment comes from connecting with the divine.
Our true wealth is in our relationship with Allah.
Exactly. When we turn to Him in times of need.
When we seek His guidance and support.
We tap into a wellspring of peace that nothing material can provide.
This hadith highlights that we need to look for solutions.
Yes.
That address the root causes of our problems.
Not just the symptoms.
Fatima's exhaustion wasn't just physical.
Right.
It came from a deeper need for peace.
For solace, for connection.
And the Prophet addressed that need.
He gave her a spiritual practice
that would heal her exhaustion and nourish her soul.
True healing comes from addressing both the physical and spiritual parts of ourselves.
It's recognizing that we're not just bodies.
We are souls.
That yearn for a connection with something greater.
Sometimes the answers we seek are not out there in the world.
But within us.
In our connection with Allah.
By turning inward.
By cultivating that inner peace.
We can access a source of strength.
That will help us face life's challenges.
With grace and fortitude.
True empowerment comes from deepening our connection with Allah.
Recognizing that we're never truly alone.
He is always with us.
Guiding us.
Supporting us.
Showering us with His mercy and love.
As we go through these hadiths, it's amazing how many of them give us these little glimpses into the Prophet's personal life. You see his interactions with his family, how he acted as a husband, the father, a leader.
It's inspiring.
It is. These stories teach us so much about humility, about service, about bringing spirituality into our everyday lives.
It's about living your faith.
Exactly. For example, Hadith 276 captures the essence of the Prophet's character beautifully.
Okay.
It's through the words of his wife, Aisha.
Aisha radiallahu anha.
Yes. She describes the Prophet's daily routine.
And it paints this picture of his humility and dedication to both his family and his mission.
She mentions how he would actively participate in household chores, helping out with everyday tasks.
That's amazing.
It is. And he would only leave for the mosque when he heard the call to prayer.
It's a powerful image, the Prophet of Islam, the leader of a growing community doing ordinary household chores.
It challenges that idea that spirituality is separate from our daily lives.
Right.
That being pious means you have to do these grand gestures.
Yeah.
It shows us that true spirituality is about how we treat those closest to us.
How we act in our own homes.
The kindness and service we offer to our families.
It's like saying our homes are the training ground for our spirituality.
It's where we can develop those virtues of patience, compassion, humility, and service.
The foundation of a righteous life.
Exactly. And Hadith 278 builds on this idea.
How so?
It emphasizes family values and the crucial role women play in nurturing strong and resilient families.
In this hadith, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, praises the women of Quraysh.
Especially those who are kind to their children and who take good care of their husband's property.
Recognizing the contributions of women.
Yes, both in raising the next generation and in managing the household.
Building a strong family requires everyone to work together.
It's a partnership.
Where everyone contributes.
To create a harmonious and supportive environment.
And these contributions are not always visible.
Right.
It's the unseen labor of love.
That happens within our homes.
And the Prophet's praise for these women isn't just about their domestic roles.
You're right.
He acknowledges their intelligence.
Their ability to make wise decisions.
Their contribution to the well-being of the whole family.
It's like saying that true leadership isn't about titles or positions.
It's about stepping up within the family.
Guiding, inspiring, contributing to the collective good.
And amidst all these serious conversations about inheritance and responsibilities and roles of women in Islam,
we also get these lighter moments.
Stories that show the Prophet's sense of humor.
His human side.
Hadith 279 tells this funny story.
Oh, I know that one.
About Ali receiving a silk suit as a gift from the Prophet.
Yes, Ali was so proud wearing that suit.
But then he noticed the Prophet's disapproval.
And he immediately cut it up.
And gave the pieces to his wives.
It's a humorous story.
It is.
But it shows Ali's respect for the Prophet's guidance.
True discipleship is about understanding the deeper meaning behind the teachings.
Right.
Aligning your actions with those principles.
Even in matters of personal taste.
It also highlights the Prophet's emphasis on simplicity and moderation.
Even when it comes to clothing.
True adornment isn't about showing off wealth.
It's about inner qualities.
Piety, humility, compassion. Our true worth isn't measured by what we wear or own.
It's about our character.
The kindness we show.
The love we nurture in our families.
And as we explore further, we see stories about different aspects of family life.
Offering guidance on navigating those complex situations.
Making decisions that prioritize everyone's well-being.
Like Hadith 280.
The story of Jabir ibn Abdullah.
Yes.
Who decided to marry a widow after his father passed away.
Leaving him to care for his younger sisters.
It shows his sense of responsibility.
His willingness to put their well-being first.
Even as he was starting his own family.
And the Prophet, when he heard Jabir's reasons,
he blessed him.
Commended his decision.
It's like Islam recognizes that there are different paths in life.
That our choices might not always fit the norm.
But what matters is that we make them with good intentions.
And a sincere desire to fulfill our responsibilities.
It's about thinking critically.
Assessing our own unique situations.
Making choices that align with our values and responsibilities.
Even if they don't conform to societal expectations.
And these hadiths don't shy away from difficult topics either.
Yeah, right.
They talk about situations where people make mistakes.
Face challenges.
Deal with complex emotions. Hadith 281 is a good example.
Oh, yes.
This man goes to the Prophet in distress.
Because he had been intimate with his wife while fasting during Ramadan.
He broke a religious obligation.
And he felt guilty.
He wanted to make things right.
And the Prophet's response is so compassionate.
He doesn't scold the man.
Instead, he offers him several options for expiation.
Each option requiring a different level of means.
First, he suggests freeing a slave.
Okay.
Then fasting for 2 consecutive months.
If he can't do that.
Then feeding 60 poor people.
It shows that Islam is firm in its principles.
But it's also understanding of human weakness.
People make mistakes.
Things happen.
And the path to redemption is through sincerity, remorse, and making amends. And the ending of this story is beautiful.
Tell me about it.
When the man says he can't even afford to feed 60 poor people,
yes,
the Prophet gives him a basket of dates to give as charity.
Such a kind gesture.
And then the man reveals that his own family is among the poorest in Medina.
And the Prophet tells him to keep the dates for his family.
It's a reminder that Allah's mercy is vast.
It encompasses everyone.
He sees our sincerity,
our struggles,
our limitations. He gives us a way back to him, even when we falter.
Our well-being and the well-being of our families is always important to Allah.
Even when we're trying to atone for our mistakes.
This story highlights the importance of balance
And context.
in applying religious rulings.
While it's important to fulfill our obligations,
We also need to consider the needs of our families.
make sure our actions don't cause hardship.
True piety isn't about rigidly following rules.
It's about understanding the spirit behind those rules.
Applying them with wisdom, compassion, and awareness of our circumstances.
And as we go deeper into these hadiths,
Yes.
we see stories about blended families
About inheritance laws.
and the importance of seeking guidance from scholars.
Hadith 282, for example, offers guidance for blended families,
Okay.
emphasizing the importance of treating stepchildren with kindness and fairness.
Salama, one of the Prophet's wives, asks him for clarification.
She wants to know if she'll be rewarded for spending on her stepchildren.
From a previous marriage,
And the Prophet assures her that she will.
that her care for them is equal to caring for her own biological children,
This shows the inclusivity of Islam.
expanding the idea of family.
Love and responsibility can go beyond blood ties.
It's about the bonds we create through marriage and circumstance.
Family isn't just about genetics.
It's about love, commitment, and shared responsibility.
And Hadith 283 reinforces the idea that a wife has the right to use her husband's property.
If he's neglecting his duty to provide for her and their children.
This repetition emphasizes how important this principle is,
Islam upholds the rights of all family members,
ensuring that their basic needs are met.
that they are treated fairly,
A strong family is built on mutual respect,
where everyone's rights and responsibilities are acknowledged.
creating an environment of trust, security, and shared well-being.
And as we approach the end of these hadiths,
We see the Prophet's evolving approach to societal challenges,
his commitment to justice.
his deep compassion for those who are struggling.
Hadith 284 is a good example.
Yes,
It shows how the Prophet's approach to dealing with the debts of deceased believers changed over time,
initially he refused to offer the funeral prayer for those who died in debt.
unless someone else paid their debts
But later, when the Muslim community became more financially stable,
after their victories.
the Prophet said he would personally settle the debts of those who died without any wealth,
It's adapting religious practices to changing circumstances,
showing an understanding of the community's needs.
a commitment to easing hardship. Islam isn't a rigid set of
It
rules
was a living tradition.
that adapts to the realities of human experience
It sets a precedent for Muslim leaders
and the community,
to take care of the vulnerable
to make sure that financial burdens don't prevent people from receiving proper burial rights.
or cause hardship for their families,
True leadership is about using your resources and influence,
to create a more just and compassionate society.
where the needs of the most vulnerable are met.
And the burdens are shared.
And finally, we come to Hadith 285
This one gives us insight into the complexities of Islamic law.
and the importance of seeking guidance from scholars.
Habiba, one of the Prophet's wives, suggests a marriage.
Between her sister and the Prophet.
This hadith highlights the importance of fosterage in Islamic law,
Okay.
how it creates family ties that are just as important as blood relations.
The Prophet gently declines Habiba's suggestion
Explaining that it would be unlawful.
because her sister is related to him through fosterage.
Thuwayba, a woman who had breastfed both the Prophet and Habiba's sister's husband,
Abu Salama.
established a bond that prohibited marriage.
It's a reminder that Islamic law is complex,
It requires careful study and interpretation.
and in matters like marriage and family.
It's crucial to seek guidance from those who have the knowledge and expertise.
This hadith also reinforces the sanctity of family ties.
Both blood ties and those created through fosterage.
These bonds are sacred,
They should be protected.
even when it comes to personal desires or social customs.
Family in all its forms is the foundation of society,
And Islam protects these bonds.
ensuring they are honored, respected, and upheld.
So as we conclude our deep dive into Sahih Bukhari, Book 64,
We've seen how these hadiths offer guidance and inspiration,
for navigating family life,
fulfilling our responsibility.
they remind us that supporting our family is not just a duty,
It's a deeply spiritual act,
a way to get closer to Allah,
a way to cultivate virtues.
a way to contribute to a better society. We need to expand our understanding of family,
It includes not just our immediate relatives,
but also those in need.
In our extended families and communities.
We need to embrace abundance,
Trusting that Allah will provide.
Financial planning,
Responsible stewardship.
A commitment to justice and fairness.
These are all essential for building strong families.
And creating a more equitable and compassionate society.
So as we wrap up,
I want to leave our listeners with a thought.
How can you apply these teachings to your own life?
Strengthen your family bonds.
Cultivate compassion, generosity, and responsibility.
Create a legacy of blessings for yourself and future generations.
It's a journey of learning.
Seeking guidance.
Striving to live by those values that make family life a form of worship.
A source of fulfillment.
A way to draw closer to Allah.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into supporting family.
May these hadiths inspire you and guide you
In creating a life full of meaning, purpose, and blessings.